X-Files' dangerous, parasitic, the thing-like creature. The Ice episode, Explained. There are very few television shows that have managed to garner as prolonged and ever-increasing fan following as The X-Files. And why not? 2 FBI agents solving supernatural and otherworldly mysteries, what more does one need? Fox Mulder and Dana Scully worked in a special division of the FBI that solved cases related to unexplained phenomena. The show had an overarching storyline, but they also used to have Monster of the Week episodes, which served as standalone entries. In today's video, we will deep dive into one such episode called Ice. The story has an uncanny resemblance with John Carpenter's The Thing and Campbell's novella Who Goes There. However, Ice stands out on its own right as a great episode, because it puts Scully and Mulder into the centre stage and builds the story around them. Every scene, action and dialogue has been specially curated to fit the premise of the show. So, let's begin, shall we?
Before we go into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin.
In the beginning. In the pilot, Agent Dana Scully of the FBI reaches Washington to meet a couple of her superior officers who had summoned her. Prior to this meeting, Scully had worked for the FBI for over 2 years. She was recruited into the agency out of medical school, but didn't want to practice or research as a medical scientist because she presumed that the FBI would help her have a distinguished career. The men asked if she knew an agent named Fox Mulder.
Are you familiar with an agent named Fox Mulder?
Yes, I am.
Well, Mulder was already an eminent name in the investigative circles because of his strong educational and professional background. Mulder graduated in psychology from Oxford and used his skills to write a paper on serial killers and the occult. That work helped the agency to catch the notorious serial killer Monty Props in the year 1988. Though Mulder was considered to be the best analyst in the Violent Crimes Division, he had managed to earn the nickname of Spooky Mulder. However, Mulder is not anymore assigned to the Violent Crimes Division, instead working in a special sector that attempts to solve the so-called X-Files, or cases that relate to certain unexplained phenomena. Scully has been summoned so that she can assist Mulder in working through the X-Files. She would be writing extensive and detailed field reports along with her personal observations and thoughts on the validity of the work. It's revealed that the agency required Scully to make an accurate scientific analysis of the work that Mulder did. To put it simply, she was to debunk the X-Files. She goes on to meet Mulder, and the conversation that they have there reveals a lot about Scully's expertise, intelligence, and intellect. It also tells us that Scully is primarily a skeptic who believes in empirically proven facts and laws. On the other hand, Mulder is someone who questions the scientifically accepted truth, but from a logical and factual viewpoint. He asks Scully one simple question.
Invention and science offer us no answers. Might we not finally turn to the fantastic as a plausibility?
Scully tries to give a rational explanation and says that no answers can be found beyond the realm of science. But Mulder doesn't want to restrict himself with the limited knowledge that science has provided him with. He believes that there's much more than what we already know. Nevertheless, let's not digress and move on to one of the most celebrated episodes of the X-Files series, and definitely the most intense and gripping one from the first season.
Right now.
Murder and Suicides. So episode 8 of the show's first season opens at a research facility named Arctic Ice Core Project, situated 250 miles north of the Arctic Circle in the Icy Cape region of Alaska. The setting and the weather tell us that the struggle at the facility will be far from easy. It's a place where the wind could kill you, where it's as harsh could get. The cold icy desert makes it difficult to even think of a warm, pleasant place where you wouldn't be chilled to death. Inside the facility, the camera follows a dog. Wherever the dog goes, he reveals dead people. An injured and bleeding man comes from the shadows to turn on the video camera and make a recording of himself, repeating the words,
We're not who we are.
The man was bleeding and seemed that he had been in a fight recently. It wasn't long before another man attacked him and the two got into hand-to-hand combat before pulling guns on each other. However, after a stare-off, they pointed their guns at themselves and committed a double suicide. To start an episode on such a grim note is one of the many reasons why Ice received a positive reception from both critics and fans alike. Mulder shows Scully 2 videotapes. The first one contained a celebration of the group of scientists from the Arctic Ice Core Project after they broke the record for deepest drilling. They had dug to retrieve ice buried deep under the surface. It had chemicals, dust, gases, and shreds of evidence that could reveal the climate of the Earth from 250,000 years ago. It was an extremely valuable finding from the frame of reference of geology. The second tape was dated a week later and was from the events that took place at the beginning of the episode. The men reported no signs of trouble or anything, and their work was nearly finished. Now all of a sudden, why did they kill each other? The mass murder was definitely a case that could be classified as an unexplained phenomenon. Naturally, Mulder and Scully were assigned to it. They leave for the Alaskan city of Nome, where they meet the toxicologist Dr. De Silva, the physician Dr. Hodge, and the geologist Denny Murphy.
That's kind of a leap, don't you think?
The evidence is there.
Maybe the organ.
The single-celled alien. They fly to the facility with a pilot named Bear and discover that the place is filled with corpses of scientists, and the only thing alive was a dog. Mulder followed protocol and advised Scully to document the scene of the crime before touching anything. In one of the rooms, the dog attacked Mulder but couldn't bite him because of his jacket. As Mulder struggled, Bear came to help and got bitten by the dog.
Hold it down.
Hodge gave the dog some anesthetic agent and put him to sleep for a while. Upon inspection, Scully and Hodge discover some black nodules on the canine. Furthermore, they find a skin irritation on the neck under which a foreign object wriggled away.
What the hell was that?
While Bear was bandaging himself in the washroom, he experienced a burst of pain only to discover that he had the same black nodules. The man completely freaked out at the nodules and made his way to the scientist to get a few of his questions answered. Scully autopsied the dead and discovered that all but Richter and Campbell killed themselves. Bear came to Scully to inquire about whether the nodules had anything to do with the killings. Hodge interrupted the conversation to reveal that the black spots on the dog had disappeared, and he theorized that they might be the symptom of the early stage of some kind of infection. Denny tells Mulder that the scientists were actually drilling inside a meteor crater. This is the first time that we get the idea of a possibility of an alien species that caused the deaths. They eventually come to the realization that a foreign organism was behind the massacre at the project facility. Scully found traces of ammonium hydroxide in Richter's blood sample, but this was strange because the chemical vaporizes at very low temperatures, including that of the human body. Also, Denny, the geologist, found the same chemical in the samples that the dead team of scientists had recovered from the meteor crater. Under the microscope, they discovered a single-celled organism, the same entity that was also present in Richter's blood sample. These findings were a step forward for Mulder in proving the theory of the existence of extraterrestrials on Earth. So, basically, these people are dealing with an unknown organism that survived the sub-zero temperatures for millions of years.
Infected. Hodge is right. We ought to lock him up. Mulder!
Scully, get that gun off me!
Paranoia takes birth. As Mulder, Scully, and the others find out more about the parasitic alien, Bear becomes more and more agitated and angry. When Hodge says that blood and stool samples are required to test if any of them are infected, Bear loses his cool and threatens to leave without being subjected to a medical examination. The agents and the scientists decide to confine Bear until he agrees to provide the sample.
He gets on that plane, I'm going to be on it with him.
But we don't have time to argue about it.
However, upon restraining him, they see that he started to experience spasms. Adding to this, they see the same wriggling object on the neck under Bear's skin. Hodge extracts a large worm from Bear's neck through an incision, but it turned out that Bear succumbed to some kind of poison that the worm excreted. Mulder rushed to the radio and requested Doolittle Airfield for immediate rescue and quarantine, but they informed him that due to bad weather, no flight could reach the base for at least 24 hours.
We were told we'd have 3 clear days of weather. Over.
Welcome to the top of the world, sir.
Scully then extracted the worms out of all of the dead researchers and learned that the parasitic worm attaches to the host's spinal cord and then travels to the hypothalamus gland in the brain. Now, the hypothalamus gland produces a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, a hormone that promotes violent and aggressive behaviour. All those who had been infected displayed belligerence. Later, Mulder reveals to Scully his plan of not killing the worms so that they can be researched upon. His argument is that there might be more of these worms present elsewhere, and if humans do not know what they're fighting, they can't fight it efficiently. On the other hand, Scully is of the opinion that the worm shouldn't be taken to the mainland because it runs the risk of infection. She says that the parasite takes only a few hours to control the host and leads them to violent and irrationally aggressive behaviour. This is very much unlike Scully, who's a woman of science and always prefers to get to the bottom of things. Here, she wishes a great discovery of humanity to be burned down.
By extermination, we should take those bodies, worms and all, outside.
Naturally, she gives more importance to life than science. Or does she? Here we have for ourselves a locked room environment where everybody has a good reason to distrust and doubt the others. The plot and the atmosphere help to build a sense of uneasiness around the characters. The symptoms of infection and the behaviour caused because of paranoia and claustrophobia feels one and the same. It becomes very difficult for both the viewer and the characters to tell who is actually infected and who isn't. When the disease becomes the cure. As they argue, the others get paranoid about the federal agents. Hodge believes that they knew everything before they even arrived at the facility. Later, they check each other for the black nodules, and after finding that everyone is uninfected, they decide to get some sleep. However, fear is running deep in their veins. That night, Mulder hears a sound and goes to investigate. He happens upon Denny's corpse right before De Silva, Hodge and Scully walk in. They initially accused him of murdering Denny, but when he claims otherwise, Scully asks Mulder to submit himself to a blood test.
Just put the gun down and let Hodge give you a blood test.
Given the hostile atmosphere, it was challenging to figure out the infected without a medical test. But Mulder refused to the test, assuming that Hodge or anyone else may alter the results to implicate him willfully. Although viewers know that Mulder is innocent, his decision creates huge tension for the characters. This tension is carried forward with an equal amount of momentum throughout the rest of the runtime. Mulder finally agrees to get quarantined.
In here, I'll be safer than you.
As he stays behind the closed doors, Hodge, Scully and De Silva continue to study the worm in the hopes of finding a cure. De Silva screws up a simple procedure that Hodge asked her to perform, and Hodge lost all his cool at once. However, this mess came as a blessing in disguise, as it helped Scully to discover that the microscopic larvae from different hosts kill each other, implying that adult worms must also follow suit. Initially, they put 2 worms in glass jars and placed them close together. The worms behaved like betta fish and attempted to kill each other.
What do you say? The way to kill it is to introduce another worm into an already infected body?
They test the theory by inserting a worm into the dog's ears, and after a while, the poor dog started to behave normally. Hodge later revealed that the dog passed the worm in his excreta. This proves that an infected host could be cured by inserting a worm from another host. The worms are territorial organisms and kill their own because they can reproduce asexually without the need for a mate. The final act. Scully goes to see Mulder and informs him about their new plan. Mulder warns that administering him the worm will only infect him as he doesn't have a worm inside him already. Scully asks to let her check him, to which he agrees. After gaining each other's trust, they move on to see De Silva and Hodge. However, they lock Scully inside a room and force their way to dump a worm into Mulder's ears. But at the last instant, Hodge notices the slithering maggot under De Silva's skin and pushes her away. They overpower her and insert the worm inside her ear. Finally, they were able to effectively dispel the risk of contamination of the population. Later, it's revealed that the dog and De Silva were sent to quarantine to be kept under observation. Mulder expressed his firm resolve to go back to the facility, but he didn't know that it had already been incinerated by higher authorities. And he didn't know who. The episode went to great lengths in terms of character building, especially that of Scully's. Prior to Ice, she had been portrayed as someone who worked as per Mulder's wishes. In Ice, however, she took charge because Mulder was quarantined. Furthermore, she's been described as someone who is inquisitive and doesn't stop until she gets to the bottom of something. But here, she probably has seen a bit too much to be any more inquisitive. Nevertheless, she bloomed as a more intelligent person and effectively took the thunder away from Mulder. If you've reached up to this point and are still enjoying it, we have a little treat for you. Don't forget to check out our videos about the Thing-like movies and the deep dive video on John Carpenter's The Thing. We'll leave the links in the description.
This is all the time we had for today's episode. We hope you guys liked it. It would be awesome if you guys can take some time to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tell us which topic you want us to cover in the comment section. Have a fantastic day ahead and stay safe.